This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Hello there, my friends, and thank you, Parker. I'm Jim Ervin, and this is Time Signatures. Over the course of the past 5 seasons, I have had the good fortune of interviewing some of the blues' biggest names. And there is one aspect of that honor that never changes, nor does it escape me. I am always appreciative of their time. Today's guest is the son of a minister. His grandfather founded a church in Belgium, and he was born in Israel. Some 35 years ago, he co-founded the band Mississippi Heat, and through the years, this band has had Chicago's creme de la creme among its members. These include Carl Weathersby, Billy Flynn, the late James Wheeler on guitar, Bob Strozier and Calvin Fuzz Jones on bass, and the late Barrelhouse Chuck Gehring on piano. And while the band has been fluid, the one constant has been the band's leader and harmonica player, Pierre Lacocque. Well, Mississippi Heat has a spanking new album out, their 14th, called Don't Look Back, and it's already garnering critical acclaim. And I promise we will discuss it fully, but first, please allow me to introduce this man. He is a principal founder, songwriter, and one of today's foremost harmonica players, Delmark recording artist Pierre Lacocque. Welcome to Time Signatures. How are you?
I'm doing great, Irv. Thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure, and there's so much to talk about here, Pierre, but I pride myself in preserving stories with my guests. So if you would, please tell me a little bit about your family background, because I feel this really comes into play in your musical history, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. My family hails from Belgium. On both sides of the family, my ancestry is from Belgium, all the way back to France a few centuries ago. But we are, my roots and our roots are on both sides of the family from Belgium for many, many generations. We're the first generation that left Belgium in many ways and lived in the United States. And so my family and my roots are still in Belgium. I still have uncle, aunts, cousins and so forth, second cousins and all that in Belgium. So that's my roots. We are the country. It's important in many ways, but it's typically a Catholic country. Christian Catholics, and we are not. We are Protestants, and that's a long history. But going back to the Huguenots in France, and there's from the very beginning we were not majority at all, but Christian for sure.
Sure. Now, your family history is fascinating me for several reasons, but part in particular stands out to me. You said in an interview that both sides of your family were touched by the Holocaust. Talk about that for a moment, would you please?
Well, it's certainly, a history that hit the country as well as us. So, there are many, I'm sure, families in Belgium will tell you similar stuff as I will tell you now. So we were part of the, resistance, as we say in French, against the Nazis. And so we were highly involved in harboring and sheltering Jewish families, for example, but not only Jewish families, even though that meant a lot to us to this day. Very much so, but also escapees, prisoners, Russians, Polish. So we were part of a community of resistance, as I said. And as with many families, we have some losses. So my uncle died in the concentration camp.
Wow.
Somebody snitched on him because he was part of a local resistance. My grandfather was also actively involved in the resistance, and he was also snitched against, and he was placed in front of a firing squad twice at different times.
Wow.
Rescued by a priest, actually, who would tell the Nazis, yes, he's a leader of a group, but he's a foreman at the glass factory. My grandfather worked in a glass factory, um, making windows, things like that. So, but he
Hmm.
was foreman, so he escaped. But he was tortured, and I won't go into details. But he never told me about it until late in his life. What happened to him? Literally late in his life, where he told me what the torture was. And it was so. But anyways, I won't go into that. But
Sure.
torture. There was a huge. Of course, losing a son. It was his first son. I mean, his oldest son. My maternal family had 4 children, and the oldest son, Jean, is the one that, or John in English, uh, is the one that was arrested and taken to a concentration camp and died there. Very Christian family we are. I would even say Judeo Christian. We're very influenced by Judaism, the theology, not the politics
Sure.
at all. But we're not very happy about that. But I'm not. But certainly with the world view, the philosophy, the way to live, the guide, the principles, are very, very Judeo-Christian for us.
Okay. Pierre, how did you first get involved with music in those early years?
So very early, I had on hindsight, but it was not. I knew it at the time too. I had a deep sadness in me, and very much so, very young. And my father, my father was a minister, as you mentioned, but he was
Hmm.
also eventually a professor of Old Testament, a biblical scholar. So we traveled for that. Very big head. 2 doctorates. You know, in theology, all of that. Very impressive man, and made a name for himself with time, worldwide. Books translated in Korean and Spanish and Portuguese, you name it,
Wow.
French, English, Spanish, you name it. So I was very proud of him. But as a father, he was very rough, and I very sad. I was more of an emotional child. I'm the second born, and but anyways, he gave me a harmonica when I was 2.5 or 3. We lived
Wow.
in France, in the Alsace, in the Vosges, not far from Strasbourg, where he was doing his doctorates. Really, he has 2 doctorates from the University of Strasbourg, and but anyway, he gave me a gift when I was 2.5 or 3, and it's a plastic harmonica, 4 holes, and I said this all the time, but that's. When in my interviews, but it made me cry. I mean, when I start playing, I was sobbing, and now I didn't know what I was doing, blowing, drawing notes, 4 holes, plastic, toy
Sure.
as a toy. But it was an amazing experience for me because it validated, in a way, the truth, which is that I was a sad, little boy. And so I knew that the harmonica was talking to me, it had something personal for me. My mother played piano in her church, and as a child, she did less of that because she took care of the 3 of us, so she had more things to do. But she was a piano player, classical church music for sure. I believe she played the organ too, in Belgium.
Wow.
But anyway, so I was exposed more to classical music and maybe some religious. The gospel singers was very welcomed in our house. So my father occasionally would sit down with us and play records. Clara Ward, I remember, but certainly Ella Fitzgerald. Uh,
Wow. Yeah.
Louis Armstrong, people like that. Sidney Bechet was very, very, very loved in my family. So, well, occasionally we would do that. But the harmonica, I didn't learn it until much later when I was 16. I came to the United States, immigrated with my parents. But the harmonica I knew was for me, but the folk songs interested me. French music was very influential in Belgium, and our curriculum was very French as well, from France. Very influenced by French culture and all that. So, but the French love the accordion, for example, as the Italians do.
Oh,
So
yeah.
So we were exposed to, even harmonica stuff, by the Beatles eventually, whatever. But it was not enough for me to dive into the harmonica, even though I always had an ear, I said, oh, but never the desire until I came to Chicago.
That's a great transition, because I wanted to talk about that. In the summer of '69, your family moved to Chicago, and as you said, at that time you were 16. That must have been quite a culture shock for you, wasn't it?
Yes,
Especially coming from to the States from Belgium.
yes, yes, it's true, but not in a negative way. The Belgium was very severe culturally, very rigid, and my parents, as well as my parents' environment and my school environment. The culture was a lot of do's and don'ts, and children at the time I was raised were supposed to be little adults. So I didn't have much room to express the inner child, let's say. Sports was not that much allowed in my family per se, because we had a very intellectual father, and who did not value at the time, because he changed, but at the time did not value play, did not value fun. It was more, study, study, study. We had to read, Kafka, people like that, Dostoevsky,
Sure.
the philosophers, certainly Holocaust survivor stories, Elie Wiesel or Elie Wiesel, people like that, which were really moving, and all of that, but not much room for fun per se in my family. So when I came to Chicago, it was actually a liberation at some level. It was difficult. My English, I had 1 year of English, and that's it. So a lot of it, but I was not, but I was, and my family and my brother and sister were welcomed. I don't recall a ostracism or rejection. Actually, maybe the French accent helped, because sometimes, people come with an accent from a different country and they're
Sure.
made fun of, but I was not made fun of at all. There was an intrigue about being a European, things like that. So no, and the African American community, because eventually I dived. I mean, I dived immediately into blues when I arrived. Were amazingly welcoming and become family-like to me, protective and welcoming, and.
I would love to talk about that for just a moment, because you've dove into an area that I'm interested in hearing more about. Talk about those early exposures to the blues, and were there any particular artists at that time that caught your ear as you were growing up?
Yeah, well, thank you, Irv. Yes, literally. I mean, we arrived in '69 this summer, and maybe July, maybe August, maybe of that year, we were living in Hyde Park, Chicago, on the University of Chicago campus. My father was teaching full time. He had a 10-year professor of Old Testament at the Chicago Theological Seminary. So we immigrated because of that, the five of us. And so I was walking one night alone. It was hot. I think it was August. And as I was walking on campus, I was hearing a sound I had never heard in my life, but very distant, very distant. And yet I said, there's nothing would stop me. Nothing would have stopped me from going to that sound. And it happened to be a band, a quartet, that was playing to welcome students back to a campus, for a new quarter. And I found out later, because I had no idea. Here I am, from Europe. I had no idea what was going on. But anyways, I followed that sound, and it was students were invited in to listen to this band, and I had no idea. I had nothing on me, but they let me in. I don't know how, but they let me in. And I went, and there were four, African American, black musicians on stage, and one of them was a harmonica player, playing through an amplifier. And I remember vividly, he had an amplifier on the chair, a Fender Princeton, because I took as much note as I could. And and he blew me away with his tone, with his sound. It felt so warm, so it's like a horn, like a saxophone, like a trombone, you name it. I mean, my life changed on the spot. I mean, my life changed. That's it. It was. I like to use the word religious experience, but it was like that. It was that.
Pierre, I have to ask you, who was playing that mesmerizing music that evening?
So I found out, never heard of him. It was Big Walter Horton,
How
and
about that?
obviously I had never heard of him ever, and he changed my life. It was a Saturday night, and he played La Cucaracha that night. That was the only song I recognized, the melody. And with time, as you know, he became famous. He was very famous for that song. And very interestingly enough, Irv, I don't know many people who many harmonica players who re-recorded that song. I don't know many. There was a tribute to Big Walter with time. There was a big an album. I won't mention names, but none of them did La Cucaracha for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, beautiful, beautiful melody. And that's so on Sunday, I go to the store. It's closed at Harper Court in Hyde Park. And on Monday, I buy my first, real harmonica, meaning professional, Hohner, Marine Band, key of C, and the rest was hours a day, hours and hours a day of practicing.
Wow. So once you started playing the harmonica, Pierre, did you find that it was something that came naturally to you, like I've heard from some musicians, or did you really have to work at it for a while?
Oh, I had to work at this. I don't know. I mean, I had no idea that you could bend notes. I had no idea of anything really. I don't read music. To this day, I don't. I mean, as a band leader, I'm learning. I've certainly have learned how to teach because
Okay.
I write songs and I train my band and so forth. So I know the language. I know the chords and things like that. And I have a piano. As a matter of fact, I have one right here. I'm working on a song right now. So I don't play piano, but I do the bass lines and make sure it sounds correct to my ear. So no, I had no education. I had no idea what a 12 bar, 8 bar, 16 bar, 24 bar, all of that. I had no idea what this was. I learned from the very beginning and out of nothing. And but I knew this. Then music, blues, was familiar to me and was welcoming to me. And to this day, I always say that music understands me, and I understand it. So I have a profound bond with that music, and so in the beginning, I ask questions. I had a book that most harmonica player will tell you the Glover. There was the blues harmonica. It was a book to teach you the basic blues harmonica
Okay.
approach. Three positions. There are many more positions, but there are three styles with the same harmonica, three keys that you could play with the same. So I learned all of that, but I learned it with passion and I learned it with excitement. To this day, I mean, I have that drive and passion to learn, to move forward, and I always thank God for that because I don't know where it comes from. It could die, and it has died. It has died at some point in my years ago, where I stopped playing for a while.
Sure,
But
sure.
so I value and I appreciate the fact that I have it. Yeah, I had to ask questions. And then my brother Michel, who's 19 months older than I, and an extrovert, and I now with the years, way more balanced. But at the time, I was not. He would take me to Teresa's, where Junior Wells was performing on Mondays, and so we would go on Mondays a few times, not too often, but we did. And even the first time after 6 months of playing, maybe 9 months, my brother Michel talked to Junior Wells and he said to him, "Hey, do you mind? My brother plays harmonica. Do you mind if he comes with it?" "Ah, no, no, bring him up." And of course, I was awful. I mean, but at the time, I cannot say much because my passion was way more guiding me than my objective view of myself as a player. But so I was touched and moved, and Junior embraced me in more ways than one. With the years, I have him kissing me on the cheek, for example. But because we became very close, and even though I didn't see him too often, but it was also something special. And the first time I meet him, it's like his eyes were going like this, and he gave me his chromatic harmonica, 16 holes, and he gave me
Wow.
a diatonic harmonica as a gift. Boom, boom, boom. And of course, it had nothing to do with my playing, but with my emotion. I think
Sure.
I think there was a bond there that stayed over the years. We were at the same festivals at times, and where he was the headliners, we opened for him, things like that, and we always had a very special something, between he and me. So he's the one that gave me the first blessing. I had others in life that later on they gave me a blessing and a welcome, profoundly so, soulfully so. But Junior is the first that welcomed me, made me feel that I was in the right world.
Pierre, I think it's so cool that your brother Michel was the guy that kind of pushed you out of your comfort zone, if you will,
Yeah.
and opened the door for you via Junior. And from that early relationship, you formed a bit of a friendship with Junior, as you just talked about. And you actually talked him into recording a song with you. What happened with that?
All of that is correct. We were playing. Let me see. We were on the same bill in the suburb of Chicago, somewhere where he was the headliners. We were the opener for him again, kind of a thing. And so of course we hit it off again. George Bass, his MC guitar player, was there too, and I got to know him, and he became a member of Mississippi Heat eventually. George Bass did. But so we were talking. Then I said, "Hey, Junior, man, I have a song that I think you would do, that I would love you to." "Of course, man, come on." So I took him to the car, and we listened to a pre-mix, of a song I had written. And he said, "Oh man, this is great. This is great. Hey, Junior, I would be so uh, overwhelmingly happy if you were willing to sing it." I said, "Of course, man, just of course, that's it." So anyway, so it was that kind of bond that we had, and so he said, but so he talked to his. I think he needed permission from his booking agent or his, I don't know what. So his booking agent said, "Absolutely no. Who is Mississippi Heat? What do you want to do with Mississippi Heat? Who are they for you to be on it?" So it did not change my affection or anything over the years. We still saw each other after that. It was always the same beautiful, emotional bond that we had. But his manager nixed it, so he
I
never came to fruition.
I have to ask you, what was the name of the song? And did you ever record it?
Yeah, I literally recorded it, and it was called "Heartbroken." I believe that's the first. I have two versions of that song that we've recorded over the years, but the first song, "Heartbroken," and I was blessed to have Robert Covington in the band. His nickname was Golden Voice. So the
Okay.
Brugner, and a delightful man, and another one that made me feel so happy to be, playing blues and in the blues community. So he was part of the original quartet of Mississippi Heat. We were a quartet first, and he was part of the original founders, actually, of Mississippi,
Okay.
with John McDonald and Bob Strozier, and myself and Michel as manager, my brother Michel. So he sang it, and I was in heaven as well. That Robert Covington sang it. He sang more other songs too on the album. The first album, called "Straight from the Heart" is the name of the album, and so he did all the singing. I believe it was. Oh no, I had Sam Lay. No, I had I had what's his name? Fuzz, Calvin Jones, who sings. Did he sing? Yeah, he sang a song too. So, but basically, it was Robert Covington who handled the lead vocals. But that's the way it went. But it was I was delighted. To this day, I listen to that song. It was so good. I
Yeah,
mean,
no kidding. Now, Pierre, you talked about suffering panic attacks early in life, and you even mentioned that your music stopped feeding you for a while.
yes.
You also said that you stopped playing the harmonica entirely for a period of time. And during that time, you focused on co-writing a psycho-religious book about Jonah with your father. How did that process help you resolve some of the issues between you and your father, and also questions that you had about your own existence?
Well, uh, s- so I continued playing the harmonic, the harp for years. I went to Montreal to finish my high school degree, my French baccalaureate, as we say,
Hmm.
and so forth. And I continued playing there, but then I hit bottom in terms of my anxieties and my loneliness and my depression, a sense of being who am I type of questions. It hit me hard, and that's when I decided, out of necessity, really, and survival, I said to myself, you know what, I need words. I cannot be just a feeling man, which I am. I am a feeling man, definitely. But I said, I need words. I need words. I mean, I need words to explain to me what is the meaning of existence, but also mine existence. So a lot of the authors and rabbis and ministers and existentialists from Europe that I had heard so much about, became of interest to me because of survival
Sure.
needs, existential survival. I said, do I live? Do I not live? I mean, that's a theme that had been with me anyways, but it just hit me as like, no way I can avoid this, because my body took over, and my unconscious or subconscious, whatever, said, dude, it's time. It's time. You can't move on. I won't let you move on. You got to deal with your life. We had gone we lived in many countries. I was also, as a Christian, with my brother and sister in the Jewish Orthodox schools in Belgium. It's because of the Holocaust. There's a whole story there. My grandfather, my father's father and father wanted us to have a Jewish appreciation because of the devastation of the Holocaust, and respect and love for the Jewish tradition and history. So, but anyway, so I had to integrate all of this, being a Christian as well.
Yes, sir.
Where do I fit into this whole world? And so it took me years, and I read and I studied, and eventually I studied. I did a master's degree, so my bachelor in psychology, master's degrees in counseling at McGill in Montreal, and then came to Chicago, worked in mental health field, and I had stopped music because music. I mean, I was part of a band, and so music stopped. It just
Sure.
killing me emotionally. I just could not, as I do now, feel joy and feel renewal, excitement for a future moving kind of a spirit, or soul, or whatever, life. I stopped for about 8 to 9 years. 8 to 10 years, maybe I forgot to remember, but at least 8. So I did my master's. Then I came to Chicago. Did mental. I did a doctorate. So I became more intellectual. I caught up, if you wish, so the years that my brother and my father were into, with very deep interest in it. And believe it or not, my dissertation was on the meaning of life. So as to tell you,
Oh,
the,
wow.
the theme never left me. It never
Yeah.
left me. And as a matter of fact, my dissertation committee told me, just I did mental health. It was a mental health dissertation because it's in psychology, but the relationship between mental health and experiencing meaning in life. And basically, the theme was, it's not that easy to have meaning in life, because Hitler had meaning as well. So I brought a more some kind of ethic a context to defining mental health. That was my
Yes,
goal.
sir.
But anyways, so but my father coming back to Chicago, and colleagues that welcomed him. His notoriety kind of grew. He kept publishing. He was very involved with the Soviet Jewry, for example, with Jews, as you know, they were kicked out of Russia or escapees. We were always involved with Judaism. It's very important to us, but as Christians, welcoming but anyway, so his notoriety and financially was better for us because in Belgium, sometimes as a professor, he was teaching Brussels at the Faculté Protestante, the Protestant seminary over there. They wouldn't pay him at times; they didn't have the money. So it was, and my mother did not work at the time, so you can imagine the stress we lived, yeah. So anyway, so all of that was good for him, but also eventually, I think wisdom, in a way, caught up with him, and to my delight and my brother and sister delight, where he became more of a father, more of a friend, and more. And I can say I had two fathers, and I'm so deeply thankful. I mean, he apologized for the severe childhood we
Wow.
had, and in particular towards me. I don't know, but
Yeah.
my sister and brother would tell you it was not rosy for them either. But for some reason, my father went with against for some reason. Me. So, but Michelle and my sister Elizabeth would tell you it was not rosy at all at home for them as well. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, he even cried. So there was an apology in motion beyond the apology. So, and he knew that I was in love with psychology, existential, certainly theology. I was not into extremist, religious, fundamentalist thinking. I was more
Sure.
to down to earth, religious but down to earth. So he invited me to write this book together, which was a joy, and a lot of my dissertation, doctoral dissertation, was happened to be very connected to what we were doing. So it was not outside my interest. You know, what is the meaning of life again with Jonah? Do you save pagans as a prophet, even though you're rebelling against God, and say, what are you doing to me? You're sending me to Nineveh, to convert non-Jews. What is this? So
Hmm.
it just happened to be very compatible with the way the family thinks actually about what are we here for, why, as
Sure.
people. So it was beautiful, and it stayed that way forever. My father never ever criticized my practicing harmonica at home at all, and I was awful. You can imagine it's like a bad violin, it's like because I was I was horrible. Of course, now I can say that. At the time, it was passion driving me, not the fact that I was objective. As I said, I was not objective, but no, I never got. And my brother Michel saw how profoundly meaningful it was for me to play music. That he's the one, in many ways, that he is the one, that should get credit for giving me courage, but encouraging me also to go to Teresa's, and we met so many people at Teresa's, uh, you know. So Carrie Bell, people like that,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Sammy Lowhorn was a delightful man who was a Muddy Waters guitar player, and he had an accident. I mean, somebody threw him out of the window, second floor, and I don't know what the heck transpired. But he
Wow.
was very kind to us. So he had stopped touring. He had stopped touring with Muddy Waters because of his accident and all that. But a lot of them, James Cotton, Louis Myers. I mean, people like that. So we come to Teresa's, and I was blown away. I mean, I was such a beginner myself, so listening to Louis Myers playing a Duke, or or of course, James Cotton would play, Kerry Bell, as I said. Junior was always my man, and in more ways than one. The thing about Junior as a player for me is less is more, and as a player, he did not value himself as a harmonica player too much, and actually he had phenomenal recordings earlier on, uh,
Wow.
before he became the James Brown type of attraction, musically and so forth. But his earlier recordings, my goodness, and amplified harmonica too, with lower keys. He often used higher keys, higher tonalities, but he also used lower, like Little Walter type of tonalities,
Yep.
and he sounded great, So, but he was a very emotional man. I loved him. I loved him for what the occasion was, when I could see him.
Indeed. Now, I want to turn the page again because in the late 80s, you were yearning once again to play and get involved and play in the music world. And thankfully, as you mentioned earlier, Michel was always in your corner, encouraging you to write your own music this time, wasn't he?
It's so true. All of that is so correct. So I had gone the intellectual route with enormous amount of love and excitement and so forth. But eventually, something hit me, that I was going too fast in the intellectual route and not enough in the emotional route, let's say. And I also wanted to be a better father. Even though I've always been kind to my kids, always been bonded with them, and my wife, Vicky, but I kind of felt, because I was publishing, I was writing, I mean, I've always had this passionate streak in me.
Sure.
I said no, 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 and then I had a longing for my inner child to come out more. So music came back, and with a vengeance. Then I founded Mississippi Heat. Eventually, I went to jam sessions, and I mean, met a lot of people in jam sessions like John McDonald and Robert Covington and Bob Stroger, people like that. And then we decided to form the band. And then Michel said to me, uh, you don't sing, but and you can. Why don't you write your own songs? I had never thought of it ever. And then thanks to him that I became a songwriter. And Billy Flynn would tell me, earlier on, Billy Flynn Billy said to me, Pierre, with time, it gets easier. It gets easier, even though the challenge is heavy, because of course you don't want to read, "My baby left me and I feel and I'm sad," and what? No, you have to come up with some kind of hook and some kind of interesting, hopefully, story. But Billy also told me, he said, "Look, it's going to get easier, easier." So that's how it started, and I never turned back.
Wow. 35 years and 14 albums later, Mississippi Heat has really found its own place in the blues music history, has it not?
Well, that's for people to judge. I come from the heart, because I
Sure.
love what I do. When I play, I close my eyes, and I try at times to not to close my eyes, because, oh, look at the audience, look at the audience, because I feel it, I love it. My body is into it, my soul is into it, and I do, and I'm appreciative of the awards and the recognition that I receive, not only from the community, blues community, but also from fans. Fans coming to me, whatever, validate the fact that I'm doing something that is not only for me, which of course it is as well, but also that it has a communal impact. And I don't take that for granted at all. Actually, it validates my purpose in life.
Now, obviously, there's been some changes to the band, yet you're still going strong today. To what do you give credit for the longevity of Mississippi Heat?
Well, excuse me a second. Okay,
Yep, no problem.
it's just an alarm. Don't worry, it's okay. Well, I would say that the driving force is my passion. I mean, as a band leader, I'm sure my colleagues listening to me who are band leaders will understand it. There's a lot of disappointments, a lot of downs, also. I mean, highs for sure, but and that more maybe the lows, but enormous amount of. As I said, disappointments, musicians not pulling in the same direction, for example, even though I'm highly into the band, into morale for the band. I would like to think that people who worked with me or who are working with me will tell you that I'm a considerate a band leader, that I put them before me, that kind of stuff. But no, I would say it's my passion. It's the fact that it's a vocation in a way. It's I would say a calling. It's not people say, oh, it's a hobby, man, quit and just it's not a hobby. It's not a hobby. I have something that makes me feel like it's a hobby, because I'm who knows tomorrow, tomorrow I may not have this drive anymore. I may not have this passion, this challenge that music gives me. I don't know. So for me, it's a calling that I have to be, that helps me move forward. And I don't know, I'm getting old, I'm in my 70s now, and there's certain things I will not go through again, because I've learned my lessons as a
Sure.
band, as a musician. But I always had also faithful musicians in my band, faithful, even if we are not, let's say, 100% all the time together. They attach, I am attached, they attach to me, whatever. So I very rarely go to war with a musician. It happens, but it's absolutely rare. It's not. I respect people's decisions. If that's what you want to do, I get it. Whatever. I can only give you the best I've got. That's what I say.
Sure.
So no, I would say it's my passion. I would say it's my desire to continue, and it seems so far I've always find musicians that are willing to work with me.
All right, Pierre, we have to talk about this new album, Don't Look Back. As a matter of fact, the autographed cover is hanging right here. The album was released in September, so not all that long ago. And I have to tell you something. This album is truly something special. Okay. I want you to picture this for a moment, Pierre. September 25th, I'm sitting at Bell Tire in Lansing, Michigan. I open my email and I see this list of 5 pieces of music to check out. Yours is number 5 on that list, but it's the first one that caught my eye. So I open the link and I start playing the album. And I'm listening to every song. It gets to track 9 and I remember thinking, wow, this is really good. And that sounds an awful lot like Danielle Nicole. Turns out it was Danielle.
Yeah.
One of, I believe, 10 incredible musicians to join you on this project. If my count is correct, I would love to have you talk about this album, Pierre, especially about Shiverin' Blues. Would you do that for me, please?
Sure. Thank you, Irv. I really appreciate it. Well, a lot of those songs were written during COVID. Uh,
Okay.
Thank God, in a way, in a strange way. I mean, this statement, yeah, because of course it's not pleasant to the COVID period. We lost enormous amount of, colleagues and friends and family and musicians and all, and job and money. But for some reason during that period, eventually I said to myself, let's be constructive about it, and I wrote a lot of songs. But so a lot of these songs on this album, the 14 songs have a personal connection to me, because I wrote them. But I also uh, invested enormous, as I always do. I don't think any other album necessarily I did not. I did, but this one is very personal. It's first of all the sound of the album, and my co-producer Michael Freeman, with whom
Yes.
done about seven now. All of the 14, I haven't counted. I would say seven, and counting. And the studio we used, for Delmark, but it's a studio we used. Yeah, no, I forgot the name of it now. I get back because fantastic studio. I'll get back to the name. I don't know why. But the sound, the mixing, the musicianship. The Billy Flynn is on it. Of course,
Oh
Giles Corey,
yeah.
and the Danielle Nicole. And of course Cheryl Youngblood. I met.
Hmm.
So I think we pushed this to the top as far as we could, and we were patient to Irv. That's maybe a positive also here. We were very patient. We knew we were excited because we liked the feel of the album, but we were very patient in terms of oh, let's remix this and let's do this, let's do that. In terms of Shivering Blues, that song you mentioned is a song I wrote for my dad from a personal point of view, from his point of view, and
Okay.
try to identify with what he must have felt. He was 94 years old when he passed away, 94,
Wow.
and he had a variety of ailments, but he caught COVID. We don't know how. We don't know how he caught COVID, and that was his downfall. Really, the coup de grâce, as we say in French.
Yeah.
And he was in the hospital for 10 days. He could not have visitors for 10 days, and that killed him. That in more ways than one. I mean, he
Yeah.
was very disconnected. We couldn't see him. So when he came back, he was he was shot, and he was not in good spirits and all that. So Shivering Blues is really, my time has come. That's how it starts. I could cry,
Yeah.
but of course I'm very close. We were very close to him. But so the intro to that song has a minor feel. I wanted to have like, oh, my time, that has
Yep.
come. Oh my goodness. So it is probably what you
I'm
experienced.
getting goosebumps over here, man. What
So
I don't mean to interrupt. I have to ask you, when Danielle was in the studio recording that album, were you just gobsmacked? Were you just blown away by what she was putting down?
yes, well, first of all, I know what she can do. I know what she has done, and I've witnessed what she has done. So I
Wow.
knew that she would be a perfect option. And Cheryl would have done a fantastic job as well. Cheryl Youngblood, but Danielle had a special place in my heart because I have met her in Europe, in Romania, of all places. That's when we met
Okay.
the same festival, and but I known of her, and of course we met there, uh, and of course I followed her career and a lot of her singing. So I knew she was one perfect match for that song, and,
Agreed.
and Michael Freeman, and I would tell me to say, he said, yeah, 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 let's do it. So, he contacted her. He knew her more than I did. I mean, we were friendly colleagues, but that Michael knew her better than I did. So he made it. He made it work out. So she did two songs on
Wow.
the album, and yes, it was the depth that I was at, and I okay. So what I was listening to where I was, in terms of a feeling for my dad, and
Yes.
musically feeling where I was. So it matched where I was. So I was delighted. I was amazed. I was all of that, and yet I was also feeling we were on the same level, if I can compare the levels. But this is exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah. Well, all I know is this is one of my favorite albums of 2025. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. I really, really, from the first moment I listened to this album, I was hooked. You had me. And I think that if people give it a fair chance, they're going to find the same thing. So, Pierre, tell me where we can send folks to learn more about you, maybe a place they can buy some copies of this album and others, or get some merch or book you for a gig.
Well, first of all, we have a website. Thank you, Irv. And the website,
Yes,
MississippiHeat.net. That's our website. Our dates, our how to contact us. All of that is there. We have a press kit. We have pictures. We have, oh my goodness, all the CDs. We have a jukebox you can listen to. In terms of buying the album is on Delmark Records. So through Delmark Records, website delmark.com, I believe it is.
okay.
But it's on Delmark. So, and of course, our gigs are lined up. We travel a lot, internationally, but we also do a lot in Chicago. I'm about to go to Michigan this weekend. We do House of Blues this Friday, here in Chicago.
Where in Michigan?
Marshall, Michigan, this Saturday.
Really?
Yeah, Marshall. If you come, you're on my guest list. With a guest, if you want.
We'll talk about this when we get done.
Okay.
You're coming to Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall. We do a performing arts center or something. The Frankie.
Yeah. Wow.
I have to see. Yeah, but
Okay. Well, we'll make sure we'll put all the links in there so that if people want to come and join you, which they should, this would be a way for you to get to see them. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that would be the way to contact us. Yeah, that would be perfect.
Wow. All right. Well, Pierre Lacocque, I want to thank you for your time today, my friend, and for sharing your amazing stories with me here today on Time Signatures. I wish you much continued success, and I can assure you that if opportunity presents itself, I will find a way somehow to catch up with you on the road. Hopefully I can do it this weekend as well.
Good. Pleasure talking with you.
All right, let me go ahead and tie the ribbons on. As this episode comes to a close, I want to tell you about the VFW National Home. It's located about 30 miles southwest of my current location in Eaton Rapids, Michigan. The VFW National Home assists military, veterans, and their families with children by creating a foundation of services and resources to achieve their personal and family goals in order to move forward in a positive, safe, and healthy environment. Among the many things offered through the VFW National Home are single-family homes within the community at no cost, tutoring, classes, secondary financial assistance, and educational resources to empower and grow. And by the way, they also offer licensed daycare for their residents at no charge. Visit vfwnationalhome.org today to learn more, and you can also make a tax-deductible donation while you're there in any amount. And as always, thank you so much for your consideration. And that wraps up this edition of Time Signatures. Once again, my thanks and personal esteem to our guest, Pierre Lacocque, but also to you, for without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you, keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues, one story at a time, remains my mission. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lcconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.